information about Sydney there. But it gives you an indication. It's probably the oldest dwelling in Sydney. And you can see how low it is. So you can so a lot of this land's been reclaimed. And there's a statue I'll show you over here. Green trees and things, but it is an amazing plant, and it has like masses of individual flowers on its head and its there. It's called a guy. We call it a guinea, and it is the common name. Doriandris is the botanical name, and that's the overseas terminal again behind us. And the ship's leaving. Probably going round to Garden Island. See the naval ships leaving now? They're probably going round to past the museum. We're talking about, they wanted a picture of you. Look at his nose.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So he was the as I said, the captain of the first fleet to Australia and the first governor.
I take it RN doesn't mean registered nurse here. What, Royal Navy?
Royal Navy. Where does it say RN? That's RA.
No, after his name. Up and down here too.
Sorry, yes, Royal Navy, not registered nurse. Yes, just to put you. That's not your average helicopter. Who knows about I just wanted you to have a look at this, because this line, the gold line on here, marks the Sydney foreshore as it is today. See around here? These are the wharves, number 6 jetty, which is just over here. And around here, that's where the foreshore is today. This is where the Opera House is, Bennelong Point. So this here, where the dark line is here, is what the foreshore was like, and this is the tank stream. The tank stream that was the water supply and the reason why this cove was chosen to establish the first settlement. And that's Bridge Street. Remember I said they dropped a log over the stream and that was the first road? And the reason Sydney streets are a little bit higgledy-piggledy and haphazard is because it was never a planned city on a grid line like most cities. Gates are over there is where you go in, and it's on the floor is the model of Sydney. And the cafe next to it, and I'll see you there at 15 minutes. Up 9 number.
Settlement in Australia. It's where Captain Arthur Phillip brought the fleet of convicts and military guard and decided that this was a good place to set up a colony. 1973, quite a lot of money, so it really blew out the budget. And the way that we paid it back was by way of a lottery. So we held what was known as the Sydney Opera House Lottery, and you would buy tickets to win your fortune. Very innovative way to pay it back. And we had it paid back in 18 months. So there you go. That's the way to do it. Okay, now that's the Sydney Opera House. We, of course, will pass it on our return journey. This is what you're taking photos. This is Macquarie's chair that I was talking about. You can go down to it. Some of you may very well have already done that. It's a little hard to see from the boat, but as we come around the point on your right-hand side, you might be able to make a rocky area with a stairway going up the side. Well, it's just tucked in there, so it is a chair that you can go and sit in that is carved in the rock, and that was carved in 1816, so by our standards, that's been there a long time. Now, as we come around Mrs. Macquarie's Point, you'll probably most obviously notice the Navy ship. place nowadays with all the apartments around it. That brings us into Double Bay here, and some of you might have heard of Double Bay. It's a a fairly exclusive retail and residential area. So it's bounded by two. As we do so, on the right hand side, you can see a goat shed with a red roof. Okay? Yellow goat shed with a red roof. And the sold for around the $20 million mark. So that's what we call it a home. I know it was owned by overseas interests at one point, but this one with the dark glass all around it looks a little bit like the cover of a stereo. That went up for sale about 12 months ago. They originally had $28 million as a price tag on it, but I believe it fell short of that. And but that's what they were looking at in this region about 12 months ago. Elton John has stayed at that on one of his visits in Sydney. He stayed in that particular property. Now, I guess one of the really nice things, and something that I hope you'll get a feel for as we make our way around the harbour, is that it's quite a while. It's only about a mile across, and there is only one entrance to Sydney Harbour. Keep your eye open. They do operate flying boats out of Rose Bay. They do joy flights around the harbour and up and down the coast. And it actually used to be used as a commercial flying boat base where they would offer overseas trips. You would fly from Rose Bay. That was back in the 1940s, late 30s, 1940s, right up until the 1950s. It looks, well, if you use your imagination, I guess you can figure out that it looks a little bit like a shark when we look at it lengthways, but they say that that's where the name of the island has come from. We do have sharks in Sydney Harbour, not enough to worry about, and but some of our more family-oriented harbour beaches have shark protective netting. I'll show you an example of that. Things was used, and to a lesser extent these days is still used by the military. So remembering we saw Fort Denison, and that was a seaplane off to our left, back behind us. Can you see it's just coming into land over there? Your much US aircraft carriers will come in here as well. So just about everything can come into Sydney Harbour. You will see obviously all sorts of different craft like sailing boats and all sorts of things. Sailboards, lots of kayakers, and just about everything. Yeah, to the right hand side, it does look beautiful and very inviting. This is Nielsen Park. It is one of our most popular family beach and picnic areas. In summer, you can see that there's posts out there with a shark protective netting. That's what I'm talking about on our more popular beaches. They do put that up in the summer. But currently I don't have that net up just yet because whilst it looks very inviting, it is too cold. Probably about 15, 16 degrees, I guess, which is about 60, something like that. Yeah, it might be alright for some of you in a little while. So it's about a half-hour journey, very popular. You'll get locals and people visiting on the Manly Ferry, and it's a bit of a Sydney. You won't see them, but you'll see just about everything else. So we're coming past, this is kind of Bourke, heard of that. What I mean by the